Okay, this is a introductory video on how here at MODAT how we're converting SS4 or SS10 Power Geopack files to OpenRoads Designer. We have made a Word doc that kind of steps through the process. This is kind of a general overview of what we're doing when we convert files. So if we go to the index of this document, you can see the different steps that we have. Now what we're doing is we're basically we have two data sources here at MODAT. One's an SS10 or SS4 data source for Power Geopack, and then we have another data source. And when I mean data source, it's a project-wise data source. And that second one is for ORD. And you cannot copy from one data source to a next. So what we have to do is we basically have to export the files from our SS10 data source. We temporarily export them out to a location on our desktop. We upgrade the files and then we copy them into the ORD data source. And when we export them, we don't take them out of the SS10 data source. We just basically leave a copy in there and make a copy when we export them out. So the very first thing in this table of contents is, if you're not leaving a copy in an SS10 location, you would want to run reports before upgrading and converting files to ORD. And so when you run reports, these are the reports I'm talking about. You basically there's a diagram in here on what kind of reports you need to run. For example, you can run corridor reports and get this information here. You've got the corridor objects bucket, and you can get this information listed with the X there. You can do an export from the corridor objects bucket parametric constraints and get this information here. You can go to the target alias dialog and get this information right here. And lastly, you can do a corridor report on the super elevation and get the super elevation information. And then I go into the reports and the information that you get. But again, at MODAT, we're leaving our SS10 project in place so our users can go back and actually look at this information and then switch back over to ORD, and if they need to, they can make adjustments in their ORD settings. So most of our users do not run these reports because they have access to the old SS10 project before it was converted. All right, the next thing on our list is basically exporting the files out of SS10. And again, this is exporting them out of our SS10 data source. And we're going to put those on a temporary location on our desktop. And then once we do that, we're going to run the Civil File Manager and upgrade all those files to ORD. Then we're going to go into our ORD work area, data source, and we're going to create new work areas for each project. Once that work area is created, we're then going to copy the files from our desktop that have just been upgraded into that project or work area location. Then we're going to run the scanref tool to reassociate the reference files. We're then going to, and the rest of these are in pretty much any order depending on the file that you're opening up, but you'll need to, or at least we do this, we'll update our alignment baseline information. There is a new alignment feature definition in an ORD, and we assign that to all our alignments. With plan sheets, the old border does not work in ORD, so they'll have to place a name boundary around any plan sheets that were created, and we let our users basically do this. We have a couple videos out there that show how to do this. If they have created corridors, And typically we tell our users that we'll upgrade their project, but if you already have corridors, we kind of let them finish that project out in SS10. But if it's only one or two corridors and they're not very advanced, we will upgrade the project in that scenario. So if there's an ITL, we have a feature remapper tool that Bentley provided us, and it basically updates the feature definitions in that ITL to the new ORD feature definition. So we would run that tool on those ITLs. We have a procedure on updating survey files, basically updating the survey features. We also update our terrain display because the properties of the terrain have changed and the volume options have changed, so we update those to the new ORD features. And then we basically, if there for any other DGN files, it's kind of looked at on a case-by-case basis what's in the file, and sometimes we will update the feature definitions and feature symbologies, or at least import those into the DGN. So in the next video, we're going to talk about exporting the files out of our SS10 data source so that they can be upgraded using Civil File Manager to ORD files.